Many people keep themselves out of living their grandest dream of business ownership because of fear. I'm not here to judge, but I am here to help educate and inspire that dream of business ownership. So, in this video, I want to talk about what to do when you find yourself in that negative spiral where you feel out of hope, you feel out of money, you feel out of patience, and you don't know what to do. If you're new to my channel, hello and welcome. So, my name is Kim Daly. I'm a franchise consultant. And for over 20 years, I have been helping people just like you say yes to their dreams to own a franchise by aligning their background, interests, skills, finances, and life goals to some of the best franchise opportunities out there today. Now, if you get inspired to begin your journey to find the perfect business, well, I'd love to be your franchise consultant. Please stay with me to the end, and I will share how I can help you. If you're new to Kim Daly TV, I first want to say this. I have created over 1,000 videos to help you have a 360-degree view of business ownership through franchising. I have covered all topics on business ownership and franchising, probably ad nauseum. I have a lot of other videos where I talk about why franchise businesses fail. But this conversation about what to do if you find yourself in that downward spiral, this may be the first time I've actually covered that topic right here. And this is coming out now because I've launched a new business called the Z Suite, which is a coaching academy, because I have invested over 23 years in franchising. 8 years, I was an average performer, and the last 13 years, I've been a history maker. So, through all of this trial and error and experience, I have a lot to give back to you, to the franchising industry. And so the Z Suite is a place for me to not just help people say yes to the dream, it's a place for me to help people understand the very nuanced differences between success and failure. So nobody invested in a franchise, nobody invested their life savings in a franchise to fail or to struggle. But yet, as business owners, it's unrealistic to think that you will never find yourself struggling. If you believe that coming in, it's a cold slap of reality when you find yourself there. If you're on the sideline and that's what's preventing you from getting in, all I can say is if you stay out there, you will never know the highs of business ownership. But in order to fully appreciate the highs, we have to also embrace the lows. Life is a series of ups and downs, but it's knowing what to do when you're on that downward spiral, right? It's knowing what to do when you find yourself in that valley that then determines how quickly you go back up. There's a lot of franchise owners out there who find themselves spiraling down and they stay in the valley way too long simply because they don't know what to do. This is not a moment for more strategy. Strategy gets you in business ownership. That's what you get from a franchisor. But managing the valley and then managing when you get stuck in your business and you want to grow in your business, this is a mindset tune-up. And this is what I coach on in the Z Suite. So let's talk about the very nuanced differences between a franchisee that is achieving success and a franchisee that is in the downward spiral. When I was a competitive swimmer, my dad used to say to me, you know, Kimberly, the difference between gold and silver, it's not a whole second. It's hundredths of a second. The people who are at the top are doing things a little bit differently, and that little bit of difference makes all the difference in winning and losing. And that's what this conversation is about. Nothing I'm about to say to you is rocket science. You're going to go, really, Kim Daly? And I'm going to say yes. Business ownership at its core is simple, but simple and easy are not the same things. As humans, when things are not going according to our plan or our expectations, what do? We want to blame, we want to point the finger, we want it to be somebody else's fault. We're all humans. That's just how it works. But in this business ownership conversation where you don't want to be surviving, you want to be thriving, what I first have to challenge you is to stop the judging and stop the blaming. It doesn't matter how you got here. If you're here, we got to deal with it. And if you're stuck recreating the same year over and over when you're asking for more growth, you just got to face it and go, okay, I have got to own this because I'm the common denominator in this business. Once you own it, you can control it. When you're blaming external circumstances for what you're not getting, you have no control over that. It's a very disempowering scenario. And believe you me, there's a lot of franchise owners who spend their entire career or lives as business owners in that place. And that's why I've launched the Z Suite, because I want a voice in the franchising industry that calls people to the more empowered place of looking in the mirror and saying, I am the cause to every effect in my business. So if I don't like the result that I'm getting in my business, I can control that. And say that with a smile on your face, because when you can own it and control it, then you can change it. So, when you find yourself spiraling down, there's two ways to attack this problem. So, the first thing is it's a math problem. The number one reason that you're running out of money is you don't have enough revenue from customers. So, what I want you to immediately do is stop doing everything else in your business that's not related to customer acquisition. Now, the most beautiful thing about a franchise is there are other people who are probably not in a state of lack. There are other franchisees that you can pick up the phone and call today, and they can tell you exactly what they're doing. Now, you may be doing what they're doing, but you may not be doing enough of it. You may be doing what they're doing, but you're not doing it from a place of hope, from a place of expectancy, because you've been doing it so long, it hasn't been creating the result that you want. So you're just going through the motions and you don't have that same energy, that same passion, that same faith that you used to have. Well, let me say this to you. The universe, the world, is not responding to our actions. The universe, the world, the field, whatever you want to call it, is responding to who we are being. So if you are putting effort out there, but the effort you're putting out is backed by a sponsoring thought of, I don't believe this is going to work because it hasn't worked in the past, guess what? You get to be right. But if you can lean into other franchisees who may be doing the same thing that you're doing, but they're doing it with a different attitude, they're doing it with a different expectancy, and therefore they're getting a different result, and you can own that, then it can change. So sometimes you're doing the right things, you're just not doing enough of it. Sometimes you're doing it, but you're doing it with the wrong attitude. And then sometimes you're not even doing the right things. So customer acquisition is the fastest way to cure everything that ails your business, most especially your attitude. Why? Because when you have an avalanche of people coming in and doing business with your business, you're going to make a lot of money. Even if your processing of them is a little bit sloppy, you're still going to make a lot of money. And money makes us happy. That is the cure-all for everything that ends you being in the valley. So the fastest way out of the valley is to fix the math problem. You need to create an avalanche of customers coming in. Don't worry about how you're going to deal with all these customers. That's a high-class problem. That's a secondary problem. Figure out how to just get more and more and more customers walking through your door, calling you on the phone, interacting with your business. Because the more people you have, the more money you're going to make. That's the first thing that I did in my 9th year. When I woke up in my 9th year and said, gosh, I really want to make more money. And I set my sights on $1 million, which was nowhere near anything I was making for the first 8 years. But I believed that I could. And I said, okay, when I think from the $1 million idea, what is the difference between me at this level and me at this level? Well, it's helping more people buy a franchise. If I want to help more people, I have to know more people. So I said, oh, I'm not really a consultant. I'm a prospector. So I put my head down and dedicated myself to learning prospecting. I didn't have any skill for it when I first woke up to this reality, but through trial and error and focus and determination and will, I figured it out. And so today, 13 years later, when I have this magical business that many other franchise consultants would love to have, and people are like, oh, I can't be Kim Daly. She generates leads in her sleep. And I'm like, yeah, you can be Kim Daly because Kim Daly wasn't Kim Daly for the first 8 years. And I do generate leads in my sleep. It's because once I woke up to the truth of this reality and saw myself as a prospector, because that was the limiting factor to me really making all the money that I want to make, I never unsaw it. I never stopped owning it. I've been owning it for 13 years and I generate leads in my sleep because I own it. I never stop prospecting. I talk to every single person I ever meet about what I do. Why? Because I don't know where they are in their life and I also don't know who they know. So it's not always about like being pushy or salesy. Prospecting is just about talking to people about what you do. If you believe that what you do is valuable and you genuinely can help people, it's a natural conversation that you can have, whether you're selling pest control or franchises. It really doesn't matter. Every single person you meet is a potential prospect. So start talking. But more importantly, find out what the successful people in your franchise are doing and double or triple down on that. Keep your head focused. In my case, I kept my head down and focused for one solid year before I looked up and changed anything. I grew my revenue by 350% in one 12-month period by simply focusing on the customer acquisition thing. You could look at my business and say, okay, it was a math problem because she tripled her pipeline and she tripled her financial result. And you'd be correct. But there's a little bit more to that story, and that's the second part of what I want to focus on if you find yourself in this downward spiral. So if you asked me in the 10th year, what was it that changed everything in your business? I would say it was the switch from consulting to prospecting. It was a math problem. If you asked me 13 years later, this is what I would say. It was my mindset that changed everything, because this is what happened. As I started showing up to play this little daily prospecting game, and I started winning because people started calling me as referred leads, I grew confident. And when I started to show up every day and I was feeling confident and I was having fun and I was playing this game that I couldn't lose, there was nothing serious happening in my business. It was all fun. I was only coming to prospect to find a new person who wanted to talk about franchising today. I wasn't trying to help somebody buy a franchise. I was trying to start a conversation. When I came to work at that high level, it was light, it was fun, it was playful, and I started winning, I became so amazingly confident. I became unstoppable. And when I became unstoppable, people started saying, I want what you have. And more people started buying franchises. Why? Was it because I was helping more people? Yes. Was it because I was on this high that they wanted? Yes. Everybody loves to do business with people that are alive, that are passionate. They want that. The world needs that. So by focusing on the math problem, I changed my attitude. Now, during the course of that first year, we got about 8, 9 months into the year, and I stopped counting the money coming in. Why? It almost didn't matter anymore. Why didn't it matter? Because I was coming to work and having so much fun in my business every day that money became secondary. So we think we want all this money, and yes, we do. I understand that. Or we want it in our bank account. We need it in order to pay our bills and live our lives, and a business is an investment and we need a return. But the thing is, the money is secondary to the feeling of control, the feeling of satisfaction in my body, the waking up and being passionate about what I was doing. That's what we want. And when we get there in our nervous system, then we make money. So if you're out there and you're in the downward spiral, and you think that you can correct the downward spiral by reading the manual, by adapting another strategy, you gotta think again. You've got to figure out how to train your nervous system to feel abundant even in the face of lack. You've got to figure out how to show up in your business and play a little daily game that you can't lose. When you come to work every day to play a game, how are you going to show up? And when you start winning at that game, what's going to happen to your nervous system? So, just like when you go to the gym, if you're creating a habit of going to the gym, you go to the gym and you lift weights, you've got to lift those weights over and over and over before you get a bicep like that. You've got to keep doing it. But why do we do it? We do that because we know that if we do the right things in time, we will see the result. Well, the same is going to be true in your business. You're going to have to do this in good faith with the most abundant attitude before you see any result. You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to keep planting seeds. You're going to have to keep showing up. And here's the thing, you can't keep checking your bank account to see, is it working? That's like a farmer who plants the seeds in the ground and then every day goes out there and unburies the seeds to see, is it sprouting? Is it sprouting? You can't do that. You need to work in good faith because it's in time and over time that the seeds that we're planting in our prospecting plans will turn to money. But if you keep focusing on what you're not getting, if you keep focusing on that bank account that's not showing you the numbers you want, what you're signaling out to the world is a feeling of lack. The world, the universe, the field, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't respond to what we want. It responds to who we are being. So, when I started being a person who was abundant, who was playing a game that I couldn't lose, who was having a blast, everything changed because by law, it has to change. We attract what we are. And I was being abundance. I was being an owner who was worthy of $1 million business before I had $1 million business. Do you see it? It's so incredibly simple. It's overlooked. Simple and easy, not the same thing. It's so nuanced. So it's easy to be on the sideline and go, okay, I hear you, Kim Daly. So just stay in a good mood when everything's going wrong. Yeah. But it's hard to do when your life savings is invested in this business and you're worried about how you're going to stay alive. So, the reason I have a coaching academy is to meet people right here, and not just people who are struggling, but people who want more, people who want to thrive at the highest level in their business because, again, it's a mindset. We don't need any more manuals. We don't need any more strategy. Assuming you're a part of a great franchise organization, you have all the strategy you need. The difference between survival and thriving is a mindset. The difference between 8 years average performing and 1 year later, Kim being a history maker, was a mindset shift. Was it a math problem? Yes, but the math problem shifted because of my mindset shift. So it comes back to training your nervous system how to feel abundant even when the world is showing you lack. What is that called? It's training your mind how to think from the owner who has everything you want. When you think from where you are, you're limited. When you think from the possibility and the abundance, now you have abundance and possibilities to tap into. It really is that simple, and it really is that complicated. So, if you're out there and you're like, wow, what is she saying? You want more? Go to thezsuite.com right now. That's the ZEESUITE. I have tons of free resources there to help you understand this. But more importantly, I have coaching. Now, if you're a candidate who doesn't yet own a business and this is starting to make sense to you, or at least you can have faith that there's somebody like Kim Daly out there. So when you do find yourself in the valley, you have a resource. I want you to take the first step. You can only learn so much on the sideline. I would have never learned all of this if I was not in the game asking for more and willing to fall flat on my face. That's the thing about business ownership. It is this beautiful adult playground where we just get to show up and play and have fun and grow. And to the extent that we're willing to grow personally and professionally, that's the extent to which we can grow financially. There's a lot of franchisees out there today who believe that this franchise is this transaction, right? I'm going to buy the franchise, turn the key, and create this earnings claim. And nothing could be further from the truth because the business requires you, the owner, to infuse this positive, life giving, abundant energy into it. And what I'm saying in this video is the business requires you, the owner, to infuse this positive, life giving, abundant energy into it when it's easy because you see it in your 3D reality. And more importantly, when it's hard because you're spiraling down. And to the extent that you can control your nervous system and your reactions, and you can think from abundance, even when you're spiraling down, that's the extent to which you will quickly start going back up. So your business is going to go down, and it is going to go up, and it is going to go down and back up. That's life. We can't avoid it. My business is no different. The difference between the first 8 years for me and the last 13 is I'm incredibly aware of how I am showing up and who I am being. And when things are going wrong, I don't look outside of myself. I don't blame the president. I don't blame the economy. I don't blame the stock market. I don't blame my franchise. I don't blame my marketing. I look in the mirror and I don't blame myself. I laugh at myself. It's all a learning experience. If I'm going to sit in judgment of myself, I'm only going to perpetuate more of what I don't want. So let go of the judgment. Let go of how it has to be or what you thought it was going to be, and just face it as it is. And now take it from there with a fresh, happy, abundant energy and create. Be the farmer who's planting seeds in good faith, knowing that in due season, when the sun warms those seeds and the rain waters those seeds, they will sprout and they will produce a harvest. Why? Because it's the law, it's the way that the universe works. Well, the same will be true in your business. So if you are on the sideline and now you're ready to get in the game, I want to be your franchise consultant and maybe your daily coach in the Z-Suite. But let's start at the beginning. Follow the link in the description right now because I can't wait to meet you and help you find the perfect franchise for you to get into the playground and start living your greatest dreams.